now, because of the internet and worldwide distribution by pushing a button, I think people, I'd like for you to explain, being from New Jersey, even though it's right next to New York, that there was that invisible line that divided what was going on in New York basically from everywhere else. So for you, how did you come to understand that not being from New York was going to make things harder for you?
Funny thing is, I didn't really come to the realization until later on. Like even when Red Alert wasn't really paying attention to me, I could care less at the time. I wasn't even thinking on those terms. Later on, I come to really realize something, and this is something that I hope everybody that's listening to this takes hold of and grasp real seriously. The first rap record that most people remember is Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight. Now, there were other cats like James Brown and the Fatback Man, and all these other cats that put out music that quote unquote sounded like rap too. But the first hip hop record that we remember that even said to the hip hop, was Sugar Hill Gang. Sugar Hill Gang was signed to a label called Sugar Hill Records. Guess where they were based out of?
New Jersey.
And guess who was signed to them? Grandmaster Flash, you had Funky 4+1. Every New York rapper that was a rapper was signed to Sugar Hill Records. So mind you, now for all those people that try to really downplay Jersey, hip hop would not be what it is had Sugar Hill Records just did not have if they didn't have the vision that they had back then when in 1979, okay, when most of these people that I'm talking to now were just maybe at my age, 8 or 9 years old, right? If they didn't have the vision that they had back then, we would probably not have hip hop like we have it today. Now, granted, I'm not saying hip hop wouldn't exist. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they changed the face of rap forever. Sugar Hill Records out of New Jersey. Duke Booty, who was part of that whole crew, wrote half the song that I fell in love with that changed my life, which was The Message. He's from New Jersey. That's probably how Melle Mel and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and I'm guessing that's probably how he even got wind of Sugar Hill Records in the first place.
There you go. Fair enough.
I never really differentiate. Hip hop is hip hop is hip hop. Whether it come from the Bronx, whether it come from Zimbabwe, I don't care. Whether it comes from Japan, whether it comes from Germany, I don't care where hip hop comes from. Now, it might have started in the Bronx, and thank God for the Bronx. I give all of those cats that just doing homage. But the Bronx without Jersey, and we don't have hip hop as we know it today.
It would definitely be very different, that's for sure.
It might not even be here.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to consider.
I'd say now you're gonna have me debating with you, bro. Think about it this way. The first record that went platinum was what? That was hip hop.
That went platinum?
Platinum.
As a song? Or you mean an album?
Song.
I always thought it was Rapper's Delight as a single.
It was. It was. If that record did not go platinum, the corporate world would have never paid any attention to rap.
Yeah.
That's when they realized, hey, there might be something here.
Yeah, because it wasn't really, the only challenge to this, which I think is an interesting thing, is that soon after Sugar Hill Records blew up, we have Curtis Blow on Mercury. So he was embraced by a major label around a year later, less than a year later. But I would also argue that's because of the success of Sugar Hill, probably. But, you know, we'll never know that. But very soon after rap got in, Curtis Blow with Mercury Records made huge inroads.
History. And then, I love Curtis Blow. I love what he gave. I love his contribution. Those founding fathers, man, we owe everything to.
Of course.
I just don't like to speak one up and not speak the other, because you gotta, Sylvia Robinson is just as important as Melle Mel is.
I mean, you could argue she's more important. She put out the record, but you know, that's you know, debatable too. But anyway, I think the reason I asked that is because I do believe, in light of what you're saying, which I'm well aware of, but then also there's so much regionalism and xenophobia in this era of rap. And to your point about Philly, and I've talked to Marley Marl about this, Craig G, all the Juice Crew people. Pop Art from Philly was putting out the Juice Crew records. It wasn't a New York label. Pop Art, you know, from Philly, they were the ones putting them out, you know, and they put out Showstopper, Salt and Pepper, you know. Anyway, so Philly and New Jersey, I think, are grossly underrepresented in the game. And I think that, and you had mentioned Schoolie D, he created Gangster Rap. He had his own record company before.
Yes, okay. I'll give, everybody says Schoolie, you know, invented Gangster Rap.
Oh, he did. And he was the first rapper that had his own label on top of that, Schoolie D Records.
Okay.
83/84. No.
Okay.
So, you know, he drew his album covers. He's my favorite rapper, Schoolie. I know more than a little bit about Schoolie. But the point is, New York, of course, created it. It's the most important, blah, blah, but we can't discount Philly and Jersey in particular.
No, you can't.
That to me is very important, which all ties back into what you were doing, because the thing that impressed me, a lot with the Sons of the Father and a lot of your early stuff was that you had so many videos, and that shocked me for fortunately, and I only got to see a couple of them once or twice, but the fact that you had 4 or 5 videos right out the gate really impressed me. So I want to talk about some of those songs, going back to the diversity stuff. So with In Control of Things, that one, you know, later, of course, people knew you for your hair and the twists and the braids and stuff, but that one, it hadn't grown out yet, or you hadn't done that yet, or whatever. And it was at the beach. And, you know, what was the thing with the Batman Sucks t-shirt? I was always so curious about what that meant.
Funny thing is, I'm a Marvel dude. You know, I'm really heavy into anime, and I'm a Marvel guy. Now, don't get me wrong. When I was really young, I used to watch the Super Friends too. You know, I used to do DC Comics a little bit, but it gotten to the point where, you know, this whole Batman thing was kind of just blown out of proportion, you know, and I started seeing these shirts like that said Batman sucks. And I was like thinking, you know what? Batman does suck. And I was just like, let me put this t-shirt on and see if anybody even pays attention to this. I'm not a DC comic hater. You get me? Like I was just,
okay.
I guess for the most part, it was probably more like more of a conversation piece than it was anything else. Because I mean, think about it. You just brought it up now. Do I hate Batman? By all means, no. As a matter of fact, as time went on and DC Comics kind of got hip to the game, and they started putting out those Superman movies. The earlier ones were really terrible, but they were entertaining. But they got better. And I used to watch Batman back in the day, the original Batman show when Eartha Kitt was, you know, on the show, and I just thought it was comical, man. Like I just think, like, how did he make this buffoonery out of this character that, you know, we all love? And you know, here that you got this little flunky dude who was, you know, everything that Batman says or everything Bruce Wayne says, he's like, you know, holy Toledo, Batman, or whatever. You know, I'm just thinking like, yo, this is just a joke. You get me? But later on, they became very serious. And I think when I first saw that shirt, I was thinking like more on the terms of, you know, why is this Batman comic so comedic? You know, because when you read comic books aren't comedic at all, man. They're real serious and dark.
Right.
And so they kind of figured it out after Marvel figured it out. And even like Marvel, they kind of they lose you sometimes too. They take a very serious character and like, how do you take Incredible Hulk and make Incredible Hulk a big buffoon? How do you do that? How am I even talking about anime right now? But
Yes.
you get it.
Okay, so back to in control things. Another thing I thought was interesting, and you do this throughout a lot of your material, is put your name in there. Anthony Hill ain't your average run of the mill. And I wanted to know on the credits, why, from a branding, from a business, from all these things, why use that name and then YZ as the artist, but written by, produced by, all these things was always Anthony Hill, or at least early on. Why'd you do that?
To be honest with you, just like with any ownership, and I guess I wasn't really thinking on those terms. I really wanted people to, as a business, if I were to die tomorrow, I don't want people to question who YZ is. Like, just like, hey, who wrote this record? Duke Booty wrote it. Who wrote this record? What's Melvin Glover or whatever his name is, right? Glover. You know, I used to see things like that, and I was thinking, well, in the publishing world, we need to be using our real names, because should I die tonight, like like Pac said, I want this to be able to be inherited to my family. In the publishing world, I always thought, or I was under the interpretation that you should always use your real name, your government. If I were to put YZ, written by YZ, under the credits, YZ could be any fucking body. As a matter of fact, as you know, right now, there's probably 4 or 5 YZs roaming the earth right now. Some in Asia, some in even in Africa. And I'm like, where are these YZs coming from? I'm gonna tell you, it's a quick story. I'm gonna make this quick. The last A3C that I went to, they had a big DJ conference where DJ Jelly was hosting, and he had Just Blaze as his key speaker there. And at the end of their presentation, they asked people if they had any questions. And I stood up, and the first thing they said was, hey, state your name and ask your question. And I said, I'm YZ and blah, 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 blah. And Just Blaze's face went sour. He didn't know, because I was in the back of the room. He didn't know it was me. So, but DJ Jelly recognized me right off the bat. So afterwards, I went to say what's up. He introduced me to Just Blaze, and Just Blaze was like, yo, there's only one YZ. And he from Jersey, he from Patterson, where I'm from, and you can't use that name. And I said, bro, that's me. And Just Blaze lost his freaking mind, bro. He lost his mind. And then that's when you know who you don't never know who you affect or who you touch until then. He knew Anthony Hill too. You understand? And so he could put the 2 and 2 together. But for the average Joe that just hears YZ right now, when you go to Spotify, it could be anybody. And when you put up the picture, he might look Asian.
Okay. And also in control of things, you talk about the power of the rifle. In a lot of your music, you have gun references, which I always thought was intriguing, because most of the music that I know of yours is not about that. So why did you, I thought it was an interesting juxtaposition.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, from the time I started making music, there was always gun references, because I always was big on the idea that you should always carry a weapon and that you should always be able to protect yourself. Not that you need to go out and just start shooting people just because of it, but you should always be able to. And my father was that way. Like, I mean, you break in my house, guess what? You won't leave there. At least if you do, you're gonna have a bullet in your ass. I mean, and that's what it's gonna be, you know. And I am a firm believer that you should be able to protect yourself. Now, am I one of these NRA guys? I'm not saying that. I'm saying, because I think things have kind of been just blown out of proportion. You get me? Because I think there are people out here that just doing foolish shit with guns. But I think in order to be positive, you got to be alive.
That's
So
very important part of it. Yes.
yeah. So two things kind of come to mind: good health and being able to protect yourself. If you're not in good health, you can't run, you can't fight. If you can't run and you can't fight, you better know how to shoot.
Well, there it is. Okay.
I mean, I know this sounds real simple and plain, but I've been carrying guns since I was a kid.
And what do you remember? Are those all things your dad taught you, or those?
No, he didn't have to come and say, "Hey, son, you know, you need to." I wish he would have done that, but he didn't have to. I noticed that he had guns. It was enough for me. And then whenever we would go and visit his family, guess what? All of his family members, they all had guns too. So, you know, it wasn't like I was sitting there lying. I was telling the truth. Most people know me. If you saw me in Brooklyn, man, there was times, man, I was like a real fool for weapons. I would go and buy a bunch of weapons from Texas and have a nice little arsenal at a point. And it got to the point, man, where when I was part of Black Watch, I lived in Brooklyn, and I would walk through downtown Brooklyn with my Mac 11 in a gun pouch out like it was a satchel. And I think Sonny Carson saved my life, man, because one day he asked me to come into his office, and he sat me down and he was just like, "YZ, let me borrow your gun." Just as calmly as like that. Just as calmly and cool as like I said, "Sir, I can't let you borrow my gun." He said, "I'll give it back, son. I just want to borrow it." And I think what he was saying is, without having to say it, bro, you can't be walking around here with your gun out like that, because if the cops see you, you're going to be a dead man. And me, I wasn't thinking on those terms at all. I'm figuring it's covered up. You know, I don't have it concealed in my body. I mean, I have it in a gun. But any cop would have saw that gun pouch. They would have knew exactly what it was. And that could have been my ass. And I got lucky.
Yeah, walking around like Omar, be in trouble.
Yeah, Omar was a trip with that though. Like, I mean, he had like a big ass rifle, big rifle walking around.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
It will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on your TV back with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.